All right, here we're at lesson 33. Today we're going to be talking about page 80, 81, and 82. So, I like math. And today we're dealing with a different kind of dotted note. But if you remember from the lesson a while back about the dotted half note, the formula is any note with a dot equals that note without a dot plus half the value of that note without a dot. Maybe you can't see that formula. I'll put it up here. You see? Any note with a dot equals that note plus half the value of that note. So when you apply that to half notes, the dotted half note is a half note plus half the value of a half note. Well, half of a half note is a quarter note. So when you apply that to quarter notes, you have a quarter note. A dotted quarter note is a quarter note plus half the value of a quarter note. And we know that is an eighth note. So that's the formula. A dotted note is the note without a dot plus half the value of that note without the dot. So how would we count that on the bottom of page 80? It says clap the following rhythm. Clap once for each note, counting aloud. So we're going to have clapping on 1, and we're going to say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now what you see in that first example on the middle of page 80 is it's a quarter note tied to an eighth note, and then an eighth note, then a quarter note tied to an eighth note, and an eighth note. Well, that is 1 and for the quarter note. Then you say 2 for the first eighth note, and for the second eighth note, 3 and for the next quarter note, 4 for the first eighth note, and for the second eighth note. So you're clapping on 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That is identical to the exercise on the bottom of the page. The only difference between the measure above and the one on the bottom is that they are written slightly different. Instead of having a quarter note tied to an eighth note, remember the tie is the line above or below, depending on where it's written on the staff, when they're the exact same note. Not a slur that means play legato, which is smooth and connected, but a tie that means continue holding. So we use the dotted quarter note instead of the eighth note after the quarter. It's a quarter note tied to an eighth note. So you have a dotted quarter note instead of the quarter tied to an eighth. But you clap them the exact same way. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we're going to apply this to a song. Lots of songs. Look at the top of page 81. This is in 3/4 time. And you can have dotted quarter notes and dotted half notes in 3/4 time and 4/4 time. So this isn't specific to one time signature. So that first rhythm, 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3. That's Silent Night. 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3. Make sure you play this. Pause this, play it. It should sound like Silent Night. If you're playing all of them the same, that doesn't sound like you sing Silent Night. That means you're playing the rhythm incorrectly. It's 1 and 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3. Next song down, it says middle C position, both thumbs on middle C. We're going to clap this one first. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and Deck the Halls. Now, just the same with Silent Night. If you don't think it sounds like Deck the Halls, check that you're playing the rhythms right. Make sure you're clapping them the same way I clapped them. Make sure you're playing it the same way I played it. Next one down starts with an incomplete measure. The time signature is 4/4. That means 4 beats per measure. Quarter note gets counted as 1 beat. That first note, there's a quarter rest in the right hand and a G with finger 4 in the left. That G comes on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So we're going to count that way when we clap it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3. Music doesn't keep going, but that's what it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1. All right, look at the next one. Here comes the bride, all dressed in white on the very bottom. 4/4 time. It has a half note, dotted quarter, eighth, whole note. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are all dotted rhythms that you need to practice and get really ingrained into how to play them and count them when you see them. It's very important that this becomes part of your instant recall. All right, page 82. It's been a few weeks since we've done these chords in our left hand. So let's take a look at Alouette. You should pause this now and practice it. And before I play it, we will count it, and I will clap the right hand rhythms and the left hand rhythms, but I won't be clapping the left hand rhythms for the whole notes and half notes unless the right hand is resting. Because if you look at the overall piece, the right hand predominantly has the melody. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 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 3, 4. That's it. Forte, measure 1 and 2. Piano, measure 3, 4. Crescendo, measure 5. Decrescendo, measure 6. Forte, measure 7, 8, 9, 10. Piano, 11 and 12. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, practice it. That's what you want it to sound like. I exaggerated my crescendo in measure 5 and my decrescendo or diminuendo in measure 6 a little bit, but we want to make sure it's, you obviously it's going up. I did too many thumbs in the left, but. And then it's forte. That's the goal. Make contrast with your dynamics. And practice this until you can play it all the way through. You could go a little faster. All right. If you have any questions, let me know. Page 80, 81, 80, 82.